Okay, I'm really happy today because we're finally getting back into this NECA Back to the Future range that I pretty much started when my channel first started. And even though there's only 9 figures in the range, it's taken me forever to bring myself to get hold of all of these. Today we're taking a look at Marty McFly from Back to the Future 2, so let's check it out now. Hi all, Chris here. So as I said before, today we're taking a look at another one of the NECA Back to the Future figures, that sort of 7-inch scale, almost 1/12 NECA range, the Ultimates range that NECA are so famous for. And this is the Marty McFly figure from Back to the Future 2. I've been really excited about this one because it feels like there is, there's only one Doc and one Marty from Back to the Future 2, whereas we've got, 2 or 3 of each from the first Back to the Future movie. So this is the Marty from Back to the Future 2. So let's start by taking a look at the box. And it's one of the more classic looking fronts. So many of these boxes have sort of a really unique front to them, but this one actually has the poster from Back to the Future 2 on it, and you can see on the side the Back to the Future 2 logo, which is really nice. And on the back, as with all of these Back to the Future figures, there is a little blurb on the back, the same blurb with all of these figures, along with a selection of other figures that are in this range. Almost exactly the same box as all the others, but with that nice different image on the front. And then on the inside flap as well, you've got a great image of this Marty figure against a Back to the Future 2 set background, and you're able, with that window packaging, to be able to see what the figure looks like on the inside. So I think he looks great from the box. I love the look of the box, but let's get this figure out. Let's get the accessories out. Let's have a look. So we're going to start with the accessories first, actually. Let's get these out of the way. And there's a reasonable amount of accessories with this one. We've got a spare head here. So this is the Marty without the iconic hat from the second movie. And he's got that slightly longer hair than he did have in the first. Answers on a postcard how he managed to grow his hair that distance between the first and second movie. Who knows? But it's a really nice looking face mold, I have to say. Much better than I think it looks on the pictures, actually, as well. This was the Marty face sculpts and all the pictures always put me off a little bit, but when you get them in hand, they're really nice. So I like the level of detail on that face sculpt. It's quite a tidy face sculpt, I must say. But this was the one accessory I was really looking forward to, this hoverboard. And you can see here you've got like the little NECA logos instead of the Mattel logo on there. Really smart, considering it's a rival toy company. I guess you don't want to put that on there. But yeah, this hoverboard looks excellent. A really nice representation of how it looks in the movie. And yeah, it's just a really nice, clean looking, well detailed hoverboard, I must say. So I really like the look of that, especially with that base on the back there. And you can swap that base out, so you can have the figure either standing on it or using it as just an accessory that's sitting about. Pulls off really easily, and then you can just push on this other base piece with the little lug in there to go under his foot, the little peg to go under his foot there. And then you'll be able to mount that figure on it as well. And we'll look in a little bit more detail with the last accessories as to how you build that up. You also get a spare hand here, so this is more of a clenched fist or a gripping fist, I guess, for this figure. Very veiny, and there's a couple of little imperfections on this one, I'd say, so I'm not a massive fan of how that has been finished. Really love this accessory though. A Peppy Perfect bottle as opposed to Pepsi Perfect, so I really like that as well. And it's great that we've got like a 1/12 accessory for a Pepsi bottle that was, again, something that's kind of iconic from the movie. And I know that in the past Pepsi have released these bottles as limited edition, so they're obviously fans of this franchise or being utilised in this franchise as well. And then you've also got the container for the bottle as well. So if you remember, the bottle comes out and is presented in this tube, which I imagine is chilled as well. And it sits in there quite nicely. As you saw, there was a little lug on the bottom and a little indentation at the bottom of the bottle that just means that it sits quite nicely and it doesn't just fall out. It's not very sturdy, but it does the job when it's sitting in one place. And now we have the mount for the hoverboard as well. So if you saw my Griff Tannen review, you'd have seen an identical mount for the hoverboard that he has in his. So we'll just pull out the little piece at the bottom there so that it can be turned from a standard accessory to sort of a functional stand for Marty. So that pushes in at the bottom, and then that then is forced into this clear mount, which will also move and give you the ability to pose that hoverboard and, I guess, Marty on it, in a number of different positions as well, so that he can be gliding at different angles on your shelf. So I really like that, and I loved that in the other figure as well, the Griff figure. It just gives so much more playability and posability to your Marty figure. So I'm really pleased with these accessories. I think they look great, but what we all want to see is the figure itself, don't we? So I have to say, this Marty looks awesome. I really do think that NECA have captured the detail, the fabric texture on these pieces of clothing really, really well. He just looks really smart. Very, very pleased with that. And again, when I talk about iconic looks, I think for Marty, this is the iconic look from the second film, where he's dressed in his son's clothes with all these cool, unusual accessories, like the sneakers and the jacket that automatically adjusts to his size and self-dries as well. So really pleased with that. Let's get a closer look at this hat. This baseball cap here is something that I think is quite a key look to this figure from the second movie. And whilst this doesn't have that reflective rainbow pearlescent look to it that the actual hat does, they've done a nice job of replicating that with paint. So I think, especially from a distance, it looks really nice. Up close, maybe looks a little bit messy from a paint perspective. This jacket doesn't look messy at all though, and a nice looking texture on the t-shirt underneath. But the jacket itself, I think, is the best part of this figure. The two-tone texture changes from the center of the jacket to the cuffs and arms look great. I think the fact that you can see the various buckles on the arms as well, and that's kind of ribbing that you see around the elbows where that jacket has shrunk up, I think is all really, really effective. I mean, moving on to the jeans as well, I love that his pockets are out. The style of the 2015s. Who remembers that style from 2015, eh? Where we all wore our pockets out. I don't. Oh, and the backs of the jeans look great as well. That sewn in threaded texture around the edges of the pockets of the jeans look really nice. Clearly some really well sculpted sort of skinny jeans that he's wearing here. And then we get down to those amazing Nike trainers, the self-sealing trainers. Is that how you'd put it? Like the self-lacing trainers that he has. I think they're so cool. I remember going to a Back to the Future exhibit where they had a pair of the actual trainers there, and they'd obviously just deteriorated to almost nothing. But those trainers are so cool, and I always wanted them when I was a kid. So I love seeing them displayed on this figure, and I just think he looks fantastic. I really do. I think he's a great looking figure. We'll take a quick look at articulation as well. So he's got really good head movement, as with all the NECA figures. Full 360-degree head movement on here. Not the greatest amount of forward and backwards movement, although forwards is not too bad. You just see his hair catching on his collar at the back that just prevents a little bit of backwards movement, but still fairly good. Good T-pose on the figure, absolutely fine on there. And on this Marty, there is a double joint on the elbow, not the same with all of these NECA figures, they do vary a bit. And then there is a twist and bend on the wrist as well, as you'd expect from a NECA figure. The wrists themselves are great. No ab crunch on these figures, as is normal with some of these NECA figures again. No real twist either on the waist, so not the greatest articulation. I think I'm so used to figures at the moment having such an excess of articulation that sometimes these NECAs take me by surprise. There's good movement at the top of the leg there though, that kicks out very well. There is a single joint in the knee, as you can see there, so it goes to around about 90 degrees and nothing too crazy. And then very limited movement in the ankle, and I don't know if this is down to the fact that his boot rides up a little higher. There is forwards and backwards movement on the ankle. There is no pivot, there is no twist. It is literally just that forward and backwards movement there. So articulation is average, I'd say. Don't expect to be able to put these figures, or at least this figure, in really dynamic poses. Some of the NECA Back to the Future figures move a little bit better than this one. But I must say, in general, I really, really like this figure, and I think that he is one of the ones that I was most looking forward to having in my collection, purely because of that, as I say, iconic look from that second movie. If you could pick one figure from the second movie, it would probably be this one from a Marty perspective. From the first movie, I would have said that the figure with the denim jacket, the life preserver, is that look from the first film. Even though it might have been nice to have had Marty from the Enchantment Under the Sea dance with his sort of tweed suit on, and in the second film, perhaps it would have been nice to have had Marty with a fedora and a leather jacket on as well. But, you know, mostly I'm just missing the Back to the Future 3 figures that I don't think we'll ever see now. But yeah, I have to say, I do really, really like the look of this guy. I think he's one of the better figures in the range. I will say that the paint app up close on the hat is not fantastic. It does a good effect from a distance, but I think, and I would say the same with the shoes as well. I didn't really talk about that before. I just think there's a couple of elements on this where the paint is a little bit sloppy. And I'm not saying it's a reason not to get this figure. And perhaps this is something that's specific to my figure itself. And if you bought a different one, you'd be able to see maybe a little bit more care taken with some of those areas. And that's the beauty of being able to open up that window and have a look before you buy, as long as you're getting it in hand in a high street shop and not online from some online third-party retailer. So it's one of those where you just take your chance, don't you? But in general, I love this figure. If you're collecting these, or if you're considering collecting these, I think this is probably one of the first ones you should go for, really, because I think the hoverboard itself, this is the only figure that hoverboard accessory comes in, and it's a classic Back to the Future accessory, isn't it, this hoverboard? It just looks, that sort of bright pink and yellow is just so classic Back to the Future, so I love it. Really pleased with this figure. Drop down in the comments and let me know what you think of this Marty. Is he one that you've got or one that you need? Tell me down in the comments what you think. And please also drop a like on the video. It'd be hugely helpful to me. And also consider subscribing to the channel as well for more action figure reviews and news. Nearly there with the Back to the Future collection, but I really do want to get into more NECA figures, especially NECA horror figures. So keep an eye out for that in the future. But I'd also say if you're really interested in more Back to the Future figures, why don't you check out this video next? Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you all take care. Bye bye now.